What if everything you thought was real was a lie? What if the people you trusted most were secretly manipulating you, bending reality to their will, and making you doubt your own sanity? And what if there was a force, a hidden power within you that could shatter their illusions and set you free? This is the story of the Heyoka Empath, the ultimate truth teller, and how they become the natural antidote to the Dark Triad, the master manipulators who thrive on chaos, control, and deception. But be warned, once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. And once you awaken to your own power, nothing will ever be the same. There's something you need to know, a truth that's been hidden in plain sight. In a world where masks have become reality, where manipulation masquerades as charm, and where truth seems to bend at will, there exists a force that even the most skilled manipulators cannot control: the Heyoka Empath. I'm speaking directly to you now because what I'm about to share isn't just information, it's illumination. It's about understanding the game you never signed up to play, and more importantly, how to end it. You've felt it, haven't you? That subtle displacement of reality when someone tries to convince you that up is down, that your memories are false, that your instincts can't be trusted. You've experienced the slow erosion of certainty, the gradual replacement of your truth with their carefully crafted fiction. You're not alone in this experience, and more importantly, you're not powerless. In every culture, across every age, there have been those who walk between worlds, the sacred clowns, the divine tricksters, the truth tellers who turn society's mirror upon itself. The Native American traditions call them Heyoka. They are the ones who do things backwards, who speak truth through paradox, who heal by disrupting the comfortable patterns that keep us blind. And in today's world, they've taken on a new role. They've become the natural antidote to those who would twist reality for their own gain. Before we can understand the power of the Heyoka, we must first recognize the predators they face. The Dark Triad isn't just a psychological term, it's a blueprint for understanding the architects of chaos who walk among us. They wear different masks, but beneath they share a common hunger, the desire to control, to dominate, to reshape reality itself for their own benefit. The psychopath moves through life like a shark through water, sleek, efficient, and utterly without remorse. They don't lack intelligence, they lack conscience. Every relationship is a transaction, every interaction a cost-benefit analysis. They study human emotion not to connect, but to better mimic what they cannot feel. The narcissist builds monuments to themselves out of other people's pain. They create elaborate mythologies where they are always the hero, always the victim, never the villain. Their greatest fear isn't being unloved, it's being ordinary. And they'll destroy anyone who threatens their carefully constructed illusion of specialness. The Machiavellian operates like a chess grandmaster who sees people as pieces to be moved, sacrificed, and captured. They plant seeds of discord months before they plan to harvest them. They create problems just so that they can emerge as the solution. They understand human nature not to connect with it, but to exploit it. Watch closely now. See how they weave their webs. The Dark Triad member doesn't attack directly. They create an environment where their target begins to doubt their own sanity. They use a technique as old as time, but refined to an art: the smear campaign. It begins with whispers, concerned looks, subtle suggestions that something isn't quite right with their target. They play on human nature, our tendency to trust authority, our desire to help, our fear of being ostracized. They turn friends into unwitting weapons, transform supporters into doubters, and isolate their target, through 1,000 small cuts to their social fabric. But their most insidious weapon is time. They understand that most people have a bias toward truth. We want to believe what we're told, especially when it comes from multiple sources. So they play the long game, building their narrative piece by piece, person by person, until their fiction becomes accepted as fact. But here is where the story turns, where the hunters become the hunted, though that they don't realize it yet. When a Dark Triad member targets a Heyoka Empath, they've unknowingly challenged their perfect opposite, someone whose very nature is to reflect truth back at those who deny it. The Heyoka's gift isn't just empathy. It's the ability to embody paradox. When others run from pain, they run toward it. When others seek to hide truth, they expose it. When others try to maintain comfortable illusions, they shatter them. This isn't a strategy they choose. It's the essence of who they are. And this is precisely why they are kryptonite to the Dark Triad. You cannot manipulate someone who instinctively sees through manipulation. You cannot gaslight someone who trusts their inner knowing more than your external lies. You cannot isolate someone who is completely comfortable standing alone in their truth. The Heyoka's power isn't in fighting back. It's in their simple refusal to accept anything but truth. They become like still water, reflecting back exactly what is shown to them. When faced with lies, they speak truth simply and without anger. When confronted with manipulation, they respond with transparent honesty. When surrounded by chaos, they maintain unwavering clarity. This is what the Dark Triad cannot comprehend. Their tactics only work on those who can be made to doubt themselves. The Heyoka's gift is unshakable self-trust. They may doubt many things, but they never doubt their inner knowing. This isn't ego. It's the opposite. It's complete alignment with truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable. Watch now as the unraveling begins. The Dark Triad member, used to controlling the narrative, suddenly finds their stories reflecting back at them. Their contradictions become visible. Their manipulations become transparent. Their carefully constructed facade begins to crack. The flying monkeys, those unwitting allies in the Dark Triad schemes, begin to see inconsistencies they can't explain away. The web of lies, which required constant maintenance to sustain, starts to collapse under its own weight. And through it all, the Heyoka simply stands in their truth, reflecting reality without distortion. To those who recognize themselves in this story, whether you're fighting to maintain your sense of reality against a master manipulator, or you're just awakening to your role as a sacred mirror, know this. Your sensitivity isn't a weakness to be overcome. It's a gift to be embraced. Your ability to feel deeply, to see clearly, to reflect truth. These are your superpowers. You don't need to become harder, more cynical, or more manipulative to protect yourself. You simply need to trust your inner knowing and stand firmly in your truth. Remember, the Dark Triad's power is an illusion maintained through constant effort. Truth, on the other hand, simply is. It doesn't need defense. It doesn't need propaganda. It doesn't need believers. Truth simply waits to be seen. And the Heyoka's gift is the ability to reflect it so clearly that others cannot help but see it too. You are not crazy. You are not wrong. You are not alone. You are the sacred mirror, and your light is needed now more than ever. Let's begin by understanding what we're dealing with. The Dark Triad: psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. Three distinct but interconnected patterns of behavior that can destroy lives, families, and communities. Each has its own signature, its own way of operating, but all share one common thread: the exploitation of others for personal gain. First, let's talk about psychopaths. These are the master manipulators, the ones who can read a room like a book, but feel nothing for the characters within it. They don't feel empathy, guilt, or remorse. They see you not as a person, but as a resource to be used and discarded. They've learned to mimic emotions perfectly, to say exactly what you want to hear. But behind their eyes lies an emptiness that no amount of success or validation can fill. They're cold, calculating, and often highly intelligent. But here's the kicker. They thrive on control. They need to feel like they're pulling the strings, like they're the puppet masters. And when they're not in control, when someone starts to see through their facade, that's when they start to unravel. Now, narcissists. Oh, narcissists. These are the ones who need constant admiration like others need air to breathe. They're the loud ones in public, the ones who dominate conversations, who make everything about them. Even other people's tragedies become stages for their performance. They'll spread false narratives, twist the truth, and use flying monkeys, people they've manipulated into doing their dirty work, to attack anyone who challenges their carefully crafted image. They're experts at playing the victim, at making you doubt your own reality. But here's the thing. Their entire sense of self is built on a house of cards. And when a Heyoka Empath comes along, someone who reflects their true self back at them, that house starts to crumble. The narcissist's greatest fear isn't being hated, it's being seen for who they really are. Then there's Machiavellianism. Now this is where things get truly intricate. They're the chess players of the Dark Triad, always thinking 10 moves ahead. Unlike the raw emotional hunger of the narcissist or the cold emptiness of the psychopath, the Machiavellian operates with calculated precision. They plant rumors like seeds, nurture conflicts like gardens, and harvest chaos like crops. They understand human nature deeply, not to connect with it, but to exploit it. They're not as flashy as narcissists or as cold as psychopaths, but they're just as dangerous. Picture a spider at the center of an invisible web. They're always calculating, always planning, always 3 steps ahead. They'll manipulate situations, exploit weaknesses, and do whatever it takes to achieve their goals. They're the ones who'll smile to your face while stabbing you in the back, who'll offer help with one hand while setting up your downfall with the other. But here's the thing. They rely on secrecy. They rely on people not seeing the complete picture, not connecting the dots. They're the ones who will befriend you just to position themselves for a betrayal, years in the making. They don't need the spotlight like the narcissist. They prefer to operate from the shadows, pulling strings you didn't even know existed. But here's what makes the Dark Triad truly dangerous. They often work in concert, even without realizing it. The psychopath's emotional void allows them to execute the Machiavellians' complex schemes without moral hesitation, while the narcissist's constant need for attention provides the perfect distraction from what's really happening behind the scenes. They create an ecosystem of manipulation where truth becomes negotiable and reality itself seems to bend to their will. Understanding these patterns isn't about fear, it's about recognition, because once you can name something, once you can see it clearly for what it is, it loses its power to confuse and disorient. And that's where our story really begins. Let's talk about how the Dark Triad operates in public. Picture a theater where they're both the lead actor and the director. They're loud, dramatic, and always trying to control the narrative. They'll talk over you, spread lies, and use their network of flying monkeys to attack anyone who challenges their version of reality. They thrive on chaos, confusion, and making you doubt your own perceptions. But here's the thing, they're not as powerful as they seem. Their entire strategy relies on you not seeing the mechanism behind the magic trick. When a Heyoka Empath steps in and reflects the truth back at them, it's like turning on the house lights during a performance. Suddenly, all the strings and trapdoors are visible. Now, let's dive into their army, the Flying Monkeys. These are the foot soldiers in the Dark Triad's campaign of manipulation. Some are genuine believers, convinced they're helping someone in need. Others are opportunists, sensing a chance to gain favor with someone they perceive as powerful. And some are simply afraid, knowing that refusing to participate might make them the next target. But here's the crucial point. Flying monkeys are often victims too. They've been manipulated, gaslit, and brainwashed into believing the Dark Triad's false narrative. The Dark Triad member tells each flying monkey a slightly different story, creating a web of contradictory narratives that all serve the same purpose: isolating and destroying their target. Watch how they work. I'm just worried about their mental health. I've noticed some concerning behavior. I hate to say anything, but people should know. Each statement drips with false concern, each rumor carefully crafted to seem like protective disclosure rather than calculated destruction. The campaign is relentless. Every social interaction becomes a potential landmine. Every friend becomes a possible informant. Every attempt to defend yourself is twisted into proof of your instability or guilt. It's death by 1,000 cuts, each one precisely placed for maximum damage. The Dark Triad understands that direct attacks aren't as effective as creating an environment where you begin to doubt your own reality. Watch how they operate in public. It's a masterclass in psychological warfare. Loud conversations just within earshot, carefully crafted to paint themselves as victims while subtly destroying reputations. Social media posts dripping with false concern. I'm so worried about them. They've been acting so strange lately. They position themselves as pillars of the community while undermining its foundations. Every move is calculated, every word chosen with precision. They're masters of impression management. In professional settings, they're the first to volunteer, the loudest to praise leadership, the most eager to take on responsibilities, all while sabotaging projects behind the scenes. They understand that perception is reality for most people, and they weaponize this knowledge with surgical precision. Watch how they work a room, strategically placing themselves near authority figures, carefully distributing compliments and criticisms, and creating alliances and rivalries with a few well-placed words. It's a masterclass in social manipulation, turning a community against itself while appearing to be its greatest defender. They create problems in secret, then publicly position themselves as the solution. They wound in private, then offer comfort in public. They destroy reputations through whispers, then loudly proclaim their support for their victims. It's a performance so perfect, so precisely calibrated, that most people never see the strings being pulled. So, what is a Heyoka Empath? Imagine a mirror that doesn't just reflect appearances, but truth itself. A mirror that can't be fooled by masks or manipulated by lies. A mirror that shows not just what is, but what lies beneath. That's a Heyoka. They reflect the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it makes others feel. They see through the lies, the manipulation, the false narratives, not because they're trying to, but because that's simply who they are. They don't play by the rules of the Dark Triad because they operate on a completely different frequency. They're not interested in power or control. They're interested in truth. And that's what makes them so dangerous to psychopaths, narcissists, and Machiavellians. Because you can't manipulate someone who sees the real you, who reflects back your true nature without distortion. Here's where the real orchestration begins. When a Heyoka Empath encounters someone from the Dark Triad, they don't engage in the usual power struggles. They don't try to outmaneuver them or play their games. Instead, they simply reflect, like a crystal-clear pool of water showing exactly what stands before it. They show the psychopath, the narcissist, the Machiavellian, exactly who they are. And for someone who spent their entire life building a false image, that's terrifying. Because the Heyoka doesn't attack, they just reveal. And in that revelation, the Dark Triad's entire facade starts to crack. But here's where the power of the Heyoka comes into play. When they step into this web of deception, they don't try to fight it. They illuminate it. Their presence acts like a black light, making invisible ink visible. And as they reflect truth back at everyone involved, something remarkable happens. The flying monkeys begin to see the manipulation. The contradictions in the stories become apparent. The false concern is revealed for what it is. And this is perhaps the most beautiful part of the Heyoka's gift. They don't just dismantle the Dark Triad's power structure, they free those who have been unknowingly enslaved by it. The flying monkeys, once they see the truth, often become the strongest advocates for authenticity. Because there's nothing more powerful than someone who has been deceived finally seeing the truth. But here's what the Dark Triad doesn't understand. When they target a Heyoka Empath, they've made a fatal miscalculation. Because a Heyoka isn't just another empath, they're a sacred mirror, a divine trickster, a force of nature that operates outside the normal rules of engagement. Their very presence disrupts the carefully constructed illusions that the Dark Triad relies on. The Heyoka's power lies not in fighting back, but in reflecting truth. Every manipulation, every lie, every attempt at control bounces back, showing the Dark Triad member exactly what they're doing. It's like trying to play chess with someone who can see all possible moves simultaneously. The more the Dark Triad tries to manipulate, the more their own tactics become visible to everyone around them. So, how do you know if you're dealing with someone from the Dark Triad? Let's talk about the red flags. They're always the victim, never the perpetrator. Every story they tell casts them as either the hero or the martyr, never the villain. They'll twist the truth so subtly you might not notice at first, reshaping reality to make themselves look good and you look bad. They use charm and flattery like a weapon, wielding compliments with surgical precision to get what they want. They'll spread lies and create drama, then position themselves as the voice of reason in the chaos they've created. And if you try to confront them, that's when their true nature reveals itself. They'll gaslight you, making you question your own memories and perceptions. They'll turn others against you, using their network of flying monkeys to isolate and discredit you. But here's the thing. You're not crazy. You're not imagining things. And you're not alone. Your confusion and self-doubt aren't signs of weakness. They're natural responses to systematic manipulation. If you're dealing with someone from the Dark Triad, here's your roadmap to reclaiming your power. First, trust your gut. That uneasy feeling in your stomach when something doesn't add up, that's your intuition speaking, and it's usually right. If something feels off, it probably is. Pay attention to patterns, not promises. Watch what they do, not what they say. Second, set boundaries. Firm, non-negotiable boundaries. Don't engage in their games or try to beat them at their own manipulative tactics. That's like trying to win at chess by playing checkers. Instead, Stay grounded in your truth. Document everything. Keep records of interactions. Save messages. Build your own reality anchor. Third, seek support. Whether it's a Heyoka Empath who can help you see through the manipulation, a qualified therapist who understands psychological abuse, or trusted friends who can help you maintain your grip on reality, you don't have to face this alone. Build your support network carefully, choosing people who strengthen your connection to truth rather than those who might be easily manipulated. And finally, remember this fundamental truth. You are not the problem. They are. Their power isn't real. It's an illusion maintained through manipulation and fear. No matter how invincible they seem, they have one critical weakness. They cannot maintain their facade in the presence of unwavering truth. When you understand this, everything changes. Your sensitivity becomes your strength. Your ability to feel deeply becomes your radar for truth. Your tendency to question yourself becomes your tool for discovering reality. You begin to see that what you thought were your weaknesses are actually your superpowers. The dismantling begins quietly, like the first light of dawn breaking through darkness. The Heyoka starts documenting everything, every interaction, every witness, every contradiction in the Dark Triad's carefully constructed narratives. They begin to see the pattern with crystal clarity. How the Dark Triad member always accuses others of exactly what they themselves are doing. How they project their own issues onto their targets. How they leave subtle traces of their manipulation everywhere they go, like fingerprints at a crime scene. The Heyoka doesn't fight fire with fire. That would only create more chaos, more confusion, more darkness. Instead, they become the calm center of the storm, the eye of the hurricane, letting the Dark Triad members' own actions create their downfall. They speak truth simply and clearly, without emotion or accusation. They maintain boundaries with unwavering consistency. They document and expose patterns without engaging in the drama. It's like watching a master martial artist use their opponent's energy against them. Most importantly, they understand something crucial. The Dark Triad's power relies entirely on maintaining control of the narrative. It's like a house of cards, impressive to look at, but fundamentally unstable. When that control begins to slip, when their contradictions become too obvious to ignore, when their flying monkeys begin to see the inconsistencies, that's when the entire structure begins to crumble. The truth is, the Dark Triad thrives on secrecy, on manipulation, on making you doubt yourself. They operate like vampires. They can only exist in darkness. But when a Heyoka Empath steps in, when they start to reflect the truth, it's like opening the curtains at dawn. The Dark Triad's entire world starts to crumble, because the truth is, they're kryptonite. And no matter how loud they are, no matter how many lies they spread, no matter how many flying monkeys they send after you, they can't escape the truth. It's like trying to fight your own reflection. Every attack just reveals more of who you really are. One by one, the flying monkeys begin to see the truth. The carefully constructed lies begin to contradict each other. The mask begins to slip, and as each piece falls away, the Dark Triad member becomes increasingly desperate, increasingly erratic, increasingly visible in their manipulation. Their greatest fear is being seen for who they really are. And that's exactly what's happening. So if you're dealing with someone from the Dark Triad, remember this. You have the power to dismantle their games. Not through force, not through manipulation, but through unwavering commitment to truth. You have the power to see through their lies, to set boundaries, and to protect yourself. Your clarity is your shield. Your truth is your sword. and your integrity is your armor. And if you're a Heyoka Empath, remember this. Your sensitivity isn't a curse, it's a gift. Your ability to reflect truth isn't a burden, it's a superpower. Your tendency to question reality isn't a weakness, it's your greatest strength. Your truth is your power. And no matter how dark the world may seem, your light will always shine through, illuminating the path for others to follow. Because in the end, truth doesn't need to be defended. It just needs to be revealed. And that's what the Heyoka does best. They reveal truth simply by being who they are, standing firmly in their authentic power, reflecting reality without distortion. And against that kind of clarity, no amount of manipulation can prevail. The truth has a weight that lies cannot match. It's like a stone dropped into a still pond. The ripples spread, and there's no stopping them. A Dark Triad member can maintain their facade for months, even years, but they can't maintain it forever. Every lie they tell requires energy to sustain. Every manipulation needs constant maintenance. Every false narrative demands endless attention to detail. And eventually, the cracks start to show. The contradictions pile up. The stories don't align. And that's when the truth begins to break through. The Heyoka Empath doesn't need to fight fire with fire. They don't need to outmaneuver the Dark Triad or play their twisted games. All they need to do is stay grounded in truth. They don't have to remember which version of the story they told to whom. They don't have to maintain complex webs of deception. They simply need to be consistent, documented, and clear. And that's where their power lies, in the unshakable foundation of truth. When the flying monkeys, those who've been manipulated into doing the Dark Triad's dirty work, begin to see the truth, the power base of the manipulator starts to erode. It's like watching a house of cards collapse, one piece at a time. The contradictions become too obvious to ignore. The credibility of the Dark Triad member crumbles. And when their patterns become clear, their future manipulations become ineffective. The very traits they weaponized against others, their need for control, their hunger for attention, their disregard for others, become the instruments of their own exposure. Imagine this. The flying monkeys start to notice inconsistencies in the stories they've been told. They begin to question the motives of the person they once trusted. They see the patterns. The way the Dark Triad member always accuses others of exactly what they themselves are doing. The way they twist the truth to suit their narrative. The way they manipulate emotions to get what they want. And slowly, the scales fall from their eyes. The truth becomes undeniable. And here's the beautiful part. The Heyoka Empath doesn't have to do much to make this happen. They don't have to convince anyone or force the truth down anyone's throat. They simply need to hold up the mirror. They need to reflect the truth, calmly and consistently. And when the flying monkeys see that reflection, when they see the reality of what's been happening, they can't unsee it. The truth becomes their liberation. To those watching who recognize themselves in this story, whether you're dealing with a psychopath, a narcissist, or a Machiavellian manipulator, know this. Your sensitivity is your strength. Your ability to feel deeply is your power. Your commitment to truth is your shield. You don't need to fight. You don't need to convince. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You simply need to stand firmly in your truth, document everything, and let the natural consequences of their actions unfold. Remember this. The Dark Triad member chose you as a target because they recognized your power, even if you didn't see it yourself. They attacked because your authenticity threatened their facade. They tried to destroy you because your light exposed their darkness. But now, You understand the game. You see the patterns. You recognize the tactics. And most importantly, you know your own power. You are the sacred mirror, the truth teller, the pattern breaker. In your reflection, all illusions dissolve. All manipulations become transparent. All darkness is exposed to light. You don't need to fight their battles for them. You don't need to engage in their drama. You simply need to hold up the mirror and let them see themselves for who they truly are. Stand strong, stay grounded, speak truth. The storm will pass, but your power will remain. This is your awakening. This is your liberation. This is your truth. And no matter how dark the world may seem, no matter how hard they try to break you, remember this: your light will always shine through. Because the truth is your weapon, and it's a weapon they can never take away from you. This is where you take your power back. No more doubting yourself. No more second-guessing your intuition. You see the patterns now, and once you see, you cannot unsee. The Dark Triad thrives in the shadows, but your truth is a blazing light, and they cannot survive in it. So what do you do next? You stand firm. You set boundaries that are non-negotiable. You refuse to be drawn into their manipulations. You hold your ground, not with aggression, but with the quiet, unshakable force of truth. Document everything. Trust your instincts. Protect your energy. And most importantly, never let them convince you that their reality is the truth. You are not weak. You are not powerless. You are not alone. You are a mirror, a force of reckoning, a Heyoka Empath who was born to disrupt illusions. They cannot manipulate you because you reflect back their true nature. They cannot control you because you refuse to play their game. They cannot break you because you were never built to follow their rules. So rise, step into your power, and let the world see the truth, because your light is needed now more than ever. Stay strong, stay aware, and above all, stay lit.